The black market spaceport on Argus 9 was a dirty, loud, and dangerous place. Ships came and went at all hours, carrying illegal cargo, strange alien tech, and things people didn't speak of. It smelled like oil, old food, and metal. Most people kept their heads down, did their job, and tried not to ask questions. Grant Vorel, a human man in his early 40s, worked as a cargo handler. He had strong arms, a rough beard, and sharp eyes that had seen too many wars. After serving in Earth's Defense Corps, he didn't want to fight anymore. He just wanted peace, even if that meant working in a place full of smugglers and thieves. That day, he was moving boxes from one freighter to a warehouse when something caught his attention. Near a rusted cargo ship, 3 alien traders stood arguing. One of them opened a metal crate. Inside was a young alien girl, curled up and chained. Her skin was a soft purple color, but covered in bruises and dirt. She was thin to thin and her eyes looked hollow, like she hadn't slept or eaten in days. "What's this junk?" the buyer asked, wrinkling his nose. "She's a Talvana," said the seller. "Last of her kind, worth something, even like this." The buyer laughed. "She's weak, probably sick. I'll give you a crate of fruit. That's all." "Rotten fruit," the seller said, angry. "Take it or leave it." After a short pause, the seller shrugged. "Fine, deal." Grant stopped walking. He watched as they pulled the crate toward a side ramp. The girl didn't speak. She just stared at the floor, silent, broken. The seller took the box of fruit without even looking back. Grant felt his fist tighten. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't looking for trouble. But something inside him burned when he saw how easily they threw her away like garbage. A memory came back, a burned village on a distant planet, children crying, soldiers looking the other way. He couldn't look away again. Grant walked over. "Hey," he called out. "What are you doing with her?" The buyer turned. "None of your business, human. Walk off." Grant stepped closer. "She's not cargo. She's alive. She's trash," the alien said. "Broken goods. Can't talk, can't move. No one wants her. I do." The alien narrowed his eyes. "You want her. She's yours. Take her." "I was going to dump her anyway." Grant didn't wait. He walked up, gently unhooked the crate, and carried it with care. The girl flinched as he touched her. Her body shook. She was scared. But she didn't scream. She didn't fight. She just looked at him with the saddest eyes he'd ever seen. "I'm not going to hurt you," Grant said quietly. He carried her to his small room on the edge of the dock area. It wasn't much, just a bed, a chair, and a clean wash basin, but it was safe. He laid her down gently and got some water. "Here," he said, holding a cup to her lips. At first, she didn't move. Then, slowly, she drank. Her hands were trembling. Her eyes never left his face. She still didn't speak. Grant brought a blanket and wrapped it around her. "What's your name?" he asked. No answer. He tried again. "Can you understand me?" Still silence. Then, softly, she whispered something in a language he didn't know. It was quiet and full of pain. Just one word. Grant didn't recognize the word, but it made his heart ache. She was trying. That was enough. Over the next few hours, he cleaned the small cuts on her arms. He gave her a few soft food packets and let her rest. She didn't sleep, but she stopped shaking. Her eyes stayed open, watching him, studying. When night came, Grant sat by the door, just in case she wanted space. He didn't ask more questions. He didn't push. This girl had been through hell. Whatever had happened to her, it wasn't something he could fix in a day, but he could start. The next morning, she was still awake, sitting up now, wrapped in the blanket, hands in her lap. Grant knelt beside her. "Do you understand me?" he asked again. She hesitated, then nodded just a little. That gave him hope. He smiled gently. "I'm Grant Vorel. I work here. I'm not with them." He pointed at himself. "Grant." She looked at him carefully. Her lips moved. "Grant." He nodded. "Yes." She touched her chest lightly. Errol." Her voice was soft, like wind through glass. But her name was clear. "Nice to meet you, Errol." He held out a hand. She didn't shake it. But she looked at it, then at him. There was fear but also curiosity. In the weeks to come, Errol would slowly start to speak more. She would learn a few human words. She would eat better, sleep longer, and start to smile just a little. But for now, Grant was just glad she was safe. The black market was still dangerous, the slavers still out there. But he had made a choice, and so had she. She had been sold for rotten fruit. But to him, she was worth more than any treasure in the stars, and he was ready to prove it. Errol sat in the corner of Grant's small room. The blanket was still around her shoulders. She had not asked for much since the day he brought her in. She didn't speak much either. But she watched everything quiet, alert, like a small bird, ready to fly at any sudden noise. Grant was careful around her. He didn't move too fast. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't ask questions she couldn't answer. He brought her warm soup, soft bread, and clean clothes. Bit by bit, she began to trust him. One evening, as he set a plate on the table, he looked over and said, "We need to talk, Errol, even a little." She looked up, curious but unsure. He pulled a small device from his pocket. "This is a translator," he said. "It can help us speak." He pressed a button. A soft light blinked. "Say something in your language." Errol looked nervous. She stayed quiet. Grant smiled gently. "No rush. When you're ready." It took her a full minute, but finally, she said a short sentence in her native tongue, soft and smooth, like a song. The device buzzed, clicked, then spoke. "I don't know who to trust." Grant nodded. "You don't have to trust everyone. Just trust me." She stared at him, as if weighing his words. Then she whispered another sentence. The translator worked. "Again, I used to speak many languages. Now I barely speak my own." Grant felt something tighten in his chest. She had been more than this, once. Before slavers. Before chains. He sat down on the floor across from her. "You were a student." She shook her head. She said something longer this time. The translator responded. "I was a listener." A Talvan, a listener, hears what others cannot say. We feel what others hide. Grant blinked. He had never heard of such a thing. "You mean you could read emotions? Minds?" Errol nodded slowly. "Intent, truth, lies, pain." She touched her temple lightly. "I still feel it, even now." He sat back. That explained a lot why she flinched around others, why she had gone so quiet. She had spent years surrounded by cruel, greedy people. She didn't just see their actions. She felt them. "I'm sorry," he said. She looked at him, confused. "For what?" "For what they did to you, for what they made you feel." There was silence between them, but it wasn't cold. It was calm. Then she asked a question of her own. "Why did you take me?" Grant thought for a long time before answering. "I was tired of looking away." He could have ignored her that day. Most people did. But he didn't. Something about her, about the way she didn't even try to ask for help, had broken something inside him. "I've seen people suffer. During the wars, I've seen pain, loss, lies, all of it. I thought I was done with that. But then I saw you, and I just couldn't walk away." Errol looked down at her hands. "You gave me food," she said. "You gave me rest. I'll give you more if you let me," Grant said. "Not because I pity you, because I respect you." Her fingers gripped the blanket tighter. She blinked fast, holding back tears. "I forgot what that feels like," she whispered. Days passed. Slowly, Errol began to speak more, both through the translator and in broken English. She asked questions. She started reading Grant's datapads. She even laughed once, just once, at a joke he made. She still slept lightly. Any loud sound made her curl into herself. But every morning, she greeted Grant with a small nod. That was progress. Grant did his best to teach her simple words: table, chair, water, light. She repeated them carefully: table, chair, water, light. He smiled. "Good. You're learning fast. I used to learn faster," she said with a shy smile. "Before all this, you're doing great," he replied. One night, Grant returned from work to find Errol standing by the window. She looked out at the stars with a thoughtful expression. "Do you miss your home?" he asked. She nodded. It was green, warm. The air hummed with life. But it's gone now. What happened? Grant asked softly. War, she said. We were peaceful. But others saw value in our gift. They came, took our leaders, burned our cities. Her hands tightened into fists. I was 10. They took me after my school was bombed. I survived. Many didn't. Grant felt sick. I'm so sorry. You didn't do it, she said. But you listen. That matters. Suddenly, she turned to him. Why do your people fight so much? Grant let out a slow breath. Because we're stubborn. Because we fear what we don't understand. And sometimes, because we believe we can fix things with force. And can you? She asked. He looked into her bright, tired eyes. Sometimes. But not always. She stepped closer. You didn't use force to help me. You used kindness. Grant looked away. Embarrassed. That's rare where I'm from. Then keep doing it, she said. Make it less rare. The next morning, something strange happened. As they walked through the marketplace, a group of alien merchants stopped talking and stared. One whispered something, another pointed peril. Noticed, her face paled. What's wrong? Grant asked. They know me, she said, from before. From the cages. Grant's hand moved to the knife hidden in his coat. We'll leave. Now. But it was too late. One of the merchants turned and ran straight toward a comm station. They'll tell others. Errol said, Bad people. Grant looked around. They needed to disappear. Fast. He grabbed her hand. Come on. They ducked into a side alley. Behind them, voices shouted. Metal boots hit the ground. Sirens howled. Their peace was gone. Back in the room, Errol paced. They will come for me. I heard it in their minds. They still want me. Then we'll be ready, Grant said. I don't want to hide anymore, she said firmly. Grant looked at her. This was not the broken girl from the crate. This was someone else now, someone stronger. You don't have to, he said. Not anymore. A new fire burned in her eyes. They tried to erase me. But I remember who I am now, and I won't be silent. Grant nodded. Then let's make sure they hear you. The stars above Argus 9 blinked silently, unaware of the danger now growing beneath them. In a dark office high above the colony, a communication screen glowed red. A large man with gray skin, glowing eyes, and golden rings on his fingers leaned forward. His name was Baron Luthrax, leader of a powerful trade cartel and the one who once ordered the destruction of Errol's home. Planet, a shaky voice came from the screen. We saw her, sir. The Talvana girl. She's alive. Baron Luthrax's face didn't change. He simply said, send the word. 10,000 credits for her capture. No damage. I want her mind intact, far below. In the hidden room Grant and Errol now used as shelter, silence filled the air. Errol sat cross-legged on the floor, breathing deeply. Her eyes were closed. Grant sat nearby, fixing a small transmitter with a bent screwdriver. Suddenly, Errol opened her eyes. They're looking for me, she said. Grant turned to her. You're? Sure, yes, I can feel it, a mind full of greed, hunger, and danger. She paused. He's the one who gave the order to destroy my people. Grant looked down at his tools. Luthrax. Errol nodded. He fears me. Grant frowned. Because of your memories, because of what I know, because I can feel truth, and his truth is full of blood. Grant stood up and grabbed his coat. Then it's time. We stopped running. Errol tilted her head. How? We hit back, but not with guns, with truth. Later that night, Grant led Errol through the lower tunnels of Argus 9. He knew someone who could help, Ren, an old friend from his military days. Ren now ran a hidden data vault beneath the docks where secrets were stored, bought, and sold. They reached a heavy metal door. Grant knocked in a pattern. A slot opened. A pair of eyes looked out. You're late, said a deep voice. Nice to see you too, Ren. Grant replied. The door opened. Ren was a tall man with metal arms and a tired smile. He glanced at Errol but didn't ask questions. She's the reason we're here, Grant said. Inside the vault, walls were covered in wires and screens. Ren sat at a terminal. So what do you need? We need to upload evidence, Grant said. About Luthrax, about what he did to her people. Ren raised an eyebrow. That's dangerous, I know, Grant said, but it needs to be done. Errol stepped forward. Her voice was calm. I remember the codes, the signals, the orders. Everything they said during the attack. I heard it all in their minds. Ren blinked. You're one of the Talvana. I am. Ren sighed and nodded. All right, let's do it for ours. Errol sat connected to a neural interface while Ren pulled images and sounds from her memory, orders given by cruel commanders, ships firing on helpless cities, laughing soldiers dragging children away. It was all there, undeniable, raw, and real. Grant watched her closely. It was painful for her to relive it, but she never stopped, not once. When the upload was nearly complete, an alarm blared. Ren cursed. They found us. How? Grant asked. Must have tracked her signal, or me. Doesn't matter, we need to run. Errol pulled off the headset. Her face was pale, but her eyes were sharp. Did it finish? Ren checked the screen. Almost. Grant grabbed a blaster. Stall them. Outside, black-armored soldiers rushed into the tunnels. They carried shock rifles and moved fast, but Grant had planned for this. As they came round the corner, flash charges exploded, blinding the first wave. Grant fired above their heads, forcing them back. Go, he shouted at Errol and Ren. I'll hold them. Ren pulled Errol into a side exit. Grant ducked behind a wall, returning fire as the enemy closed in. He was outnumbered, outgunned, but not outmatched. He moved fast, using cover. Every shot meant to slow them, not kill. He wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to buy time. Then, a stun blast hit him in the chest. His body slammed against the wall. His vision blurred. His fingers went numb. The last thing he saw was Errol's face looking back, her eyes full of fear as the door closed behind. Errol and Ren made it to a side elevator. As it rose, Errol held onto the wall, shaking. He's still alive. She whispered. How do you know? Ren asked. I can feel his heartbeat. They reached the surface. The air was colder now. Night had fallen. Above them, ships passed like shadows. We have to go back, Errol said. Ren grabbed her arm. We can't. If we go back now, we die. And if you die, that data dies with you. Errol looked at him. Then we don't run. We make it louder. The next morning, across dozens of space channels, a new file spread like fire. The truth of Talvana, with voice clips, memory scans, and battle orders signed by Baron Luthrax himself. The reaction was instant. The Galactic News Network picked it up. Human leaders demanded investigation. Peace councils called emergency meetings. Luthrax denied everything, but it was too late. The truth was out, back in a hidden room. Errol sat quietly. She had done what she could, but her mind was not calm. She stared at her hands. He saved me again, and I left him. Ren walked in. He made you promise to survive. He knew the cost. She stood. I won't leave him behind. Ren frowned. You'll never make it alone. She looked at him, eyes glowing slightly. I won't be alone. That night, Errol went to the old market. She stood in the center, unafraid. People stared. Some whispered. She spoke loudly. They took my people. They silenced our voices. But I'm still here. She looked around. And I will not leave the one who gave me back my voice. Behind her, others began to step forward. A smuggler, a mechanic, even an old alien trader. People who had seen what Grant did. People who had been silent for too long. And so, a crowd began to gather. Not an army. Not yet, but the beginning of one. The prison ship floated in orbit above a cold moon. It was called the Driftclaw, a dark metal beast built for silence and control. Inside, the lights never changed. The air smelled like steel and fear. There were no windows, only cameras, guards, and locked doors. In one of those cells lay Grant Vorel. His arms were chained. His body was bruised, but his spirit dashed unbroken. Every time the guards came in, they asked the same question, where's the girl? And every time, Grant gave the same answer, safe. Back on Argus 9, Errol stood inside a hidden warehouse, looking at a rough map projected on the wall. Around her stood a small group of people, humans, aliens, traders, mechanics, and even a few ex-soldiers. Each of them had once been silent, but not anymore. They believed in Grant, and now they believed in Errol. Ren stepped forward. The drift claw is heavily guarded. You go in without a plan, you die. Errol nodded. That's why we're not going in alone. She turned to a tall woman with a robotic arm. Lara, you said you can jam orbital signals. Yes, Lara said, for about 15 minutes. After that, their systems will catch it. Errol looked at Ren. Is that enough time? It has to be, he said. Then she pointed to a small ship in the back of the warehouse. It was old and dented, but fast. That's a ride, she said. Hours later, Errol sat in the pilot's seat of the ship, heart pounding. She wasn't a warrior. She had never held a weapon, but she was done hiding. The ship broke through the clouds and into orbit. Lara activated the jammer. The lights flickered across the control board. 15 minutes. She said, That's all we've got. Errol nodded. Let's get him back. Inside the drift claw. Alarms suddenly went off. Signal disruption. External ship detected. The guards rushed to stations. Turrets powered on. But the attack didn't come from outside, it came from within. Ren had built a virus into the data Errol had released. The moment it detected the Driftclaw's system, it spread like fire-shutting cameras, opening wrong doors and blinding security for 30 seconds. Just enough time for Errol's team to board. They came in fast. Smoke bombs first, flashlights. No killing, just stun guns and clever tricks. Errol moved with focus. She followed her, feeling her gift. Her mind reached out in waves, searching for Grant's presence. She felt it. Weak, but there. She ran down a long corridor, ignoring the shouting behind her. In the cell, Grant coughed. He was tired. His ribs hurt. But then something changed. He felt it, like a warm breeze in the cold. A presence, a mind. Errol. The door slid open. She stood there, out of breath, face bright with emotion. Grant. She cried. He smiled weakly. Took you long enough. She ran forward and knelt beside him. I'm sorry I left you. You didn't. You survived. He reached up and touched her shoulder. That's all I needed. She pulled out a small tool and broke his cuffs. He groaned as he stood up. Let's get out of here. But the way back wasn't easy. The virus had started to fail. Systems rebooted. Guards began to push back. One hallway after another was blocked. Lara called through the comm. They're closing the hangar doors. If we don't get out now, we're stuck. Grant looked at Errol. You go. I'll hold them off. No, she said, shaking her head. We leave together. But Grant was already moving. He turned to the others. Take her. Get to the ship. I'm not leaving you again, Errol shouted. He turned to her. You didn't survive all this just to die now. She stepped forward, her hands glowing faintly. You don't understand. Suddenly, the hallway shook. The lights flickered. The guards stopped firing. Errol stepped into the open, eyes glowing brighter now. Her voice rang out like a bell. You fear truth. You fear what you've done. And now, it sees you. The guards began to panic, their minds filled with memories, things they had hidden, every cruel act, every order followed, every scream ignored. Arwyl had never used her gift like this before, but now she let it flow. Truth, guilt, fear pushed back at them like a wave. The guards fell, not from pain, but from shame. Errol fell to her knees, exhausted. Grant caught her. Before she hit the floor, I guess you're not the only fighter here, he whispered. The group made it to the hangar just in time. The doors were halfway shut. Eliore fired up the engines. Get in, she yelled. Grant carried Errol aboard. The ship roared to life and blasted away from the prison. Just before the guns powered back on Argus 9, people watched as news of the rescue spread. A new message followed, this time from Errol herself. Her face appeared on screens across the system. I'm Errol of the Talvana, she said. I was taken. My people were silenced, but we are not gone. She paused. I speak now for those who never could, and for the one who gave me back my voice. That night, Errol sat by Grant's side. His wounds were treated. He was tired, but smiling. You didn't have to come for me. He said. Yes, I did, she replied. You saw worth in me when no one else did. Now, I see it in you. He chuckled. I'm just a cargo guy with bad knees. You're more than that. They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars. I think this is just the beginning. Grant said. Yes, Errol said softly. Now they know we're not afraid. In the shadows. Baron Luthrax watched the news feed. His face was calm, but his hands trembled. They've lit a fire. He said. Behind him, an assistant asked, Should we crush it? He shook his head. It's too late for that. The sun rose slowly over the dusty edge of Argus 9, casting golden light across broken buildings and worn-out machines. But today, something felt different. A new flag flew over the main square. Not the flag of a cartel, not the mark of a corporation. It was a simple banner, a star, surrounded by 7 smaller lights, the symbol of unity between species. And in the center of it all stood Errol, once a silent prisoner, now the voice of many. Since the Driftclaw rescue, Errol and Grant had become symbols across the colonies. Their stories spread to every sector. The truth about the Talvana genocide had shocked millions. Protests began. Questions were asked. Investigations started. Baron Luthrax tried to deny everything, but the evidence was strong and Errol's words even stronger. She didn't speak of revenge. She didn't ask for war. She asked for justice, and people listened inside a council hall on New Terra, a place where major species gathered to decide the laws of the stars. Errol stood at the center of a round chamber. Around her sat humans, aliens, diplomats, and leaders, all waiting. A council speaker said, You may speak now. Errol looked around. Her hands were steady. Her voice was clear. I was taken when I was 10 years old. My city was destroyed. My people were sold. I was locked in cages, passed around like broken glass. Some in the room looked away. Others held their breath. But a human man saw me. She continued. Not as cargo, not as a weapon, as a person. She turned slightly toward Grant, who sat in the crowd. He gave her a small nod. I speak now because of him, but I do not speak for just myself. I speak for every life lost in silence, every voice crushed by greed. She raised her hand. You want peace? Then start by remembering the ones you forgot. The room was silent for a long moment. Then one of the human delegates stood up and said, Let her people be honored. Let the crimes be named, and let us begin again with truth. The chamber erupted in quiet applause. It wasn't loud, but it was real. Weeks passed. A large transport ship flew across the stars toward an empty green planet. It had once belonged to the Talvana. Now, it would belong to them again. Inside the ship, Errol stood beside Grant. You're quiet, she said. I'm thinking, he replied. About what? He looked out the window. About how all this started. I saw you in a crate. I never imagined it would lead here. You saw me when I had nothing left, Errol said. Now I see the same in others. Grant smiled. And you lift them up. You did the same for me. They didn't speak for a moment. Then Grant asked, What happens now? Errol looked ahead. We build. We remember. We help others. And me? He asked. You stay, she said, her voice gentle. You're part of this now. Part of us. The ship landed on a field full of green grass and small flowers. A group of Talvana survivors waited at the edge, some old, some young, all wearing simple robes. As Errol stepped down, a woman approached, her eyes filled with tears. Errol. She whispered, You are alive. The woman was one of the elders, one of the few who escaped long ago. Errol embraced her, for the first time in years. She felt whole. Later, Grant walked through the new settlement. He saw homes being built, children playing, and trees planted in neat rows. It was peaceful. Errol found him sitting on a rock near a small lake. Thinking again, she asked, Just watching. He replied, You don't talk much about yourself. She said, Not much to say. I think there is, she said. But you'll tell me when you're ready. He chuckled, Maybe. She sat beside him. Do you know what you gave me? She asked. Grant shook his head. You gave me dignity. That's something no one can buy. Not with gold, not with fruit, not with power. He looked at her. You gave it back to yourself. She smiled. Maybe. But I needed someone to remind me I had it. They watched the sun go down over the hills. I think the galaxy's changing. Grant said, double quotes, yes. Errol said, and maybe this time, for the better, back on Argus 9. Message played across a small hollow screen in a corner bar. It was Errol's voice, to anyone still afraid. To anyone who was taken, hurt, or forgotten. You are not alone. We see you, and your worth is not decided by those who hold power. It is decided by who you are and who you choose to become. A group of workers in dusty uniforms listened quietly. One of them, a young alien boy with sharp eyes, nodded slowly. In a private room far away. Baron Luthrax sat in silence. His empire was crumbling, courts were closing in. Allies had turned their backs. He stared at a photo of the girl he once sold for a crate of rotten fruit. She was nothing. He whispered, but deep down, he knew the truth. She was everything. A year later, a statue was placed in the center of the new Talvana capital. It showed a young girl standing tall, hand outstretched not in anger, but in hope. Below the statue, the words read, one saw her as nothing. One saw her as treasure. In her voice, the stars found truth. In her strength, the forgotten found a future. And beside the statue stood two figures, one Talvana, one human side by side.